to run a phase 3 trial, which we are doing now, targeted against reducing the mean number of heavy drinking days. If we are successful with that, we would go into one that also tries to show that we can reduce the number of patients that have any heavy drinking days. If we can be successful in these trials, we expect to get an approval in both the Europe and US. I would say with COVID doing its doing, we've announced that we are working with the FDA to see if there are ways to expedite this program, and I believe we have a solid rationale for that, but we're in discussions at the moment. Once we get to market, as I mentioned before, the high prescribers will be the psychiatrists and addiction specialists. They're fairly easily targeted, and I think we can get to a few hundred million, maybe even a multi-billion-dollar product just with that group. And then eventually, maybe after a year or so, you're going to want to go to the mass market and see if you can really turn this into a multi-billion-dollar product. And to put a finer point on that, if you take a $255 a month cost of the drug and you look at only the patients that are genetically positive, so we've cut the market by a third already, it's still a $35 billion market if you take all those patients and you look at that type of thing. So if you look at that smaller group there, that's an almost $3 billion market. So it's 2.7 million people. You take a third of them, you go with the $255 a month price, it's about a $3 billion market. So if you can get a small percentage, a very tiny percentage of the bigger market, yes, you could have a multi-billion-dollar drug. But what's also important is the low-hanging fruit. With a $3 billion market there of patients who have already decided they need treatment, if you can show that they're genetically positive, you would expect a significant number of them to step forward. And that's why I think with a small sales force, you can get to multi-hundred million, maybe even low billion-dollar product. On the kind of nuts and bolts, blocking and tackling, this is a drug that has already been manufactured. We have already manufactured the 0.33 milligram tablet at commercial scale. We recently had another manufacturing. The stability looks good. We've had strong stability out to 5 years so far. So we think we're going to get a long shelf life, and we think we can produce this very inexpensively. Wrapping up, large market, late stage drug in phase 3, companion diagnostic. We have figured out with the FDA how to get there. Big margins once you do, long, strong patents. And then finally, talking a little bit more about the company and where we can go. So we are working now to do some exploratory work for AD04 for opioids. We've already announced that we were doing that. And then recently we announced the acquisition of Pernivate. Pernivate is a company focused on adenosine receptor technologies, and we have a terrific and I'm just so excited about what's going on there. Programs for non-opioid pain and a more early stage program for cocaine addiction. I'll also say with the team we got there with Dr. Robert Thompson, you can look him up. He's done a ton in the adenosine space. We have one of the world's best adenosine libraries, which allow us a lot of flexibility and a lot of speed once we get that acquired.